Could a Stanley Cup winning coach be on his way to Utah? The rumors are out there. We're going to talk about it on today's Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, and joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño. We are the dynamic duo that brings you your first listen on the Utah Hockey Club every single day. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get into the juicy NHL coaching carousel rumors. And before we do that, I need to let you know the episode's brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Robyn, it started with a little bit of smoke. And when you're searching for a new pope, white smoke means you have confirmation that there is a new pope. Okay? This smoke was more of a hazy blue because it was coming out of Tampa Bay. And Larry Brooks was the first, but it has since been backed up by some others that there's potentially the rumor that Jon Cooper may leave Tampa Bay. And if he does leave Tampa Bay, the Utah Hockey Club has been mentioned as a landing spot. So, Robyn, your thoughts?
It's a really interesting rumor, Tom, because I think, as you kind of mentioned, Jon Cooper is a Stanley Cup winning coach. He knows what it takes to kind of have with the tools that he has to make a Stanley Cup team. And of course, that Tampa team was also incredibly strong. But who's to say that Jon Cooper doesn't make his way to Utah? I think it'd be an incredible feat for Utah to get him as their next head coach. Whether it is this offseason if he decides to leave early, or whether it's next offseason when his contract is up, there's a lot of different ways I can go down about it.
So first things first, and the question that you should answer is: do you want Jon Cooper as the head coach of the Utah Hockey Club? So give us your positives and negatives, if you have any, on either side, as to your thoughts as to why or why not Jon Cooper makes sense over Andre Tourigny.
I mean, all right. I guess here's the biggest thing I will say. I love Andre Tourigny. I think he's done a fantastic job through this rebuild. However, and I think one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the week, talking about the coaching carousel, I said, when you bring in a coach from juniors, I think it's an incredible thing to do if you are a rebuilding team, because you can appeal to the younger crowd. You know where these guys have been, and you know kind of how to still put them in the right direction rather than old style coaching we've seen with some other coaches around the NHL block. And I feel like the Utah Hockey Club are in a situation where I feel like with Tourigny, there is a plateau. I feel like they can, I'm not sure if they can reach a further aspect, but with Cooper, I feel like they can kind of break through that. They can kind of go through that. I mean, look at the talent on this team, right? You take a look on the talent of this Utah team, and it's only been getting better, but they're making the same mistakes. We talked about this, right? They're making the same mistakes. At what point am I questioning, is it a coaching situation? Is it because they reached this plateau? And do they need a fresh change for it to happen?
So I think for my answer, I start with Jon Cooper versus who? Period. Like, before I even get to Andre Tourigny, I think I would take Jon Cooper over 28 coaches in this league, probably. So this wouldn't be a slight to Andre Tourigny by any means, but Jon Cooper has 2 Stanley Cups. He has taken Tampa Bay on several deep runs. He's been there for 12 years. He is also one of the nicest people in the game. Jon Cooper is an incredible human being, and Barrett is too. They're both really, really, really good guys. So Cooper does check that box, that he fits into that mold. So I think from a success standpoint, look, Tourigny's won at the Worlds. He's won at the World Juniors. He's been a coach of the year before in junior hockey. But success at the pro level hasn't quite found him yet. And yes, Robyn, you and I have talked about our issues with some of the decisions, whether it's personnel, whether it's, X's and O's. Like there's, from time to time, we have our quibbles. We would with anyone who is coaching. But I think if you can make your product better with Jon Cooper, you make your product better with Jon Cooper.
Yeah, no, absolutely, certainly. And I feel like that's an incredible point that you made, that is picking up Jon Cooper versus really any of the other coaches, like very many of the other coaches out there. I mean, and I think it also goes, as you mentioned, an overall nice guy, which is a good thing to have, right? You and I have talked, I think, last summer, right, about some of the other coaches and how it's talk, your old school, like Mike Babcock, John Tortorella, those coaches, from the previous era, who are more of, be mean and get some, and just really kind of get some, I don't know, it's kind of, you do it the harsher way, and it may not work, but I feel like it works in a more, like, you can get a more developmental minded coach, someone who's really more focused on building the team morale a lot more. I think that's kind of been what we're focusing on a lot more, right? Kind of something that can help build a team morale, put them up there. And again, when you top all that with a Stanley Cup winning coach, someone who has the resume, who is proven, I mean, it is a no-brainer decision.
Now, Robyn, the connection seems kind of random until you fill a very important piece of information into this puzzle. And that is that Ryan Smith and Jon Cooper are golf buddies.
There we go.
So if you don't know this, you're thinking, that's kind of random. Why would a Stanley Cup, two-time Stanley Cup winning coach leave a Tampa Bay organization that's currently in the playoffs, or was until they got bounced by Florida, but a first-round loss? He just signed a one-year extension, which 1 year is not really security. It's, hey, let's go one more year. We don't have another plan. Let's just see what happens next year. So things would be open at that point. But once you realize that Cooper, and not only does he have a golf buddy relationship with Ryan Smith, but on top of that, Smith then connected him with the coach of the Utah Jazz, and they have been kind of learning and texting one another. So Will Hardy, being a young NBA coach, learning the ropes from Jon Cooper, and they have a relationship built now too. So all of this relationship building, intentionally or unintentionally, is actually kind of favoring some of the ideas and the reasons why maybe a Jon Cooper to Utah, of all places. Because I'm sure there's a bunch of other teams out there going, how could he go to Utah? Why would he want to go to Utah? That team's not even in the playoffs, and the West is so tough, and the conference is a mess, and all this stuff, and they have so many. There are reasons.
There are reasons. And it's interesting because at first I think I saw some of the rumors that started kicking in because after Tampa got bounced, I feel like there was the hot seat, the initial blow-off reaction is like, oh, is it time for Tampa to move on from Jon Cooper and everything like that? And I feel like, reading into a little bit more, and what I'm seeing now is like, okay, Jon Cooper has one more season with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we're seeing, okay, the team's got bounced out of the first round for the last 3 years straight. So maybe they will be looking for a change. But at this point, as you mentioned, Cooper only has one more year left on this contract, right? He's just got 1 year, ends in 2026, and that's it. You know whose contract also ends in 2026? Andre Tourigny.
Tourigny signed an extension, though. Tourigny signed an extension through 27-28.
Correct. Oh, that's right. Okay.
But actually, that's great. I want to talk about the timeline, for this. So let's talk about the timeline here in a second. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Barrett Hayton being the latest player to head off to the Worlds. But we're going to talk more about this Jon Cooper to Utah as we fill in the pieces of the puzzle. I get excited just thinking about the possibility. So stay tuned. We're gonna discuss that a little bit more here in just a second. All right, and today's show is brought to you in part by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Check this out. It's got the latest technology for elevated playing. It's got Wi-Fi 6 and 6E with auto low latency mode, advanced technology. Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. And you can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. Do you already have a console? Well, a Fire TV Stick 4K is more affordable and easier to travel with. Aha! Allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. So, you know what? Here's the thing that's cool about Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And one of my favorite series of all time, Borderlands. Borderlands 3 is now on Game Pass with all the expansion passes. Borderlands 4 is coming out in the fall. I'm fired up. It's coming out just before my birthday. If anybody wants to get me an early birthday gift, Borderlands 4. But I'm fired up. I mean, there's so many great titles that have come out, even in the last couple of weeks, that are available on Game Pass right now. And all you need is a Fire TV Stick 4K to access these and a paired controller. It's absolutely fantastic. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño back here with you and getting ready to talk a little bit more about what's going on here. The possibility of Jon Cooper to Utah. The other thing, so Robyn, when you first told me about this and you told me Larry Brooks is, I want to put it out there, I'm not going to lie, I kind of rolled my eyes.
Any hockey fan.
I think most people did, right?
Yes.
Right. And I mean, if you're unfamiliar with why I would roll my eyes at Larry Brooks, just Google Larry Brooks versus. And there's going to be a list. You know how search engines like to put in the list of suggestions?
Mm-hmm.
There will be a lot of them.
I've just got two favorites, and you already know about those two favorites, Tom.
Well, John Tortorella's got to be number one.
It's absolutely number one. Yeah. Larry Brooks
v. Tortorella is legendary.
That is, that will go down. Yeah, it's a legendary. Look that one up first. But my next one after that, and I told you about this one, is Larry Brooks versus Dan Boyle.
Yeah, they had a special breed of hate between each other, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's audio of that too, with Dan Boyle. But yeah, Brooks just pisses people off. He will.
He writes for the New York Post, for God's sake.
He does. He writes for the Post. But he's been doing it since the 70s, and the guy is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So obviously, he comes up with legitimate scoops. He has a network. He's been around forever. He knows things, but I still take everything he says with a grain of salt. Well, then, Robyn, you came at me and told me, hang on a second. Frank Seravalli is kind of backing this up a little bit right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I saw an article, earlier from the Daily Faceoff, which is the organization Frank Seravalli writes for. And he pretty much said, I would say that there's smoke, and that's on both ends, the Tampa and Jon Cooper's world. So what we're seeing is that there very is likely that there at some point, maybe they just mutually agrees, like, okay, I think we're done here.
So that's a great lead back to the timeline, because I wanted to talk about that. It doesn't happen right now.
No.
Number one, Cooper has a lot of money left owed to him. He's one of the highest paid coaches in the league. He's at $5.3 million. I know that once we find out what Sullivan's making with the Rangers, it's probably going to be around $6 million. He'll be one of the, if not the highest paid coach in the NHL. But Ryan Smith, I feel like, would fork out to get Jon Cooper. I think he would make him one of the highest paid coaches easily because he already is. And I'm sure he'd get a bit of a bump coming to Utah. So I don't think that's an issue. But there is one more year left on his current deal. Tourigny had that extension. So here's an interesting thought about the timeline is that it could be that, look, number one, if Jon Cooper becomes available and you want him, it doesn't matter who you have and what contract you have to eat, you eat it. Because that guy's going to be sitting down for about 5 minutes before he gets 10 job offers. So you have to jump if he decides he's ready. But number two, I don't know if he takes this one more year with Tampa Bay, if he decides, or if Tampa decides, hey, we're going to move on, we're going to pay you for the year, and we're going to choose a fresh direction over the summer, or if he does get his one lame duck season. Robyn, this to me does not happen 25-26 season. This is more 26-27 or 27-28.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're seeing we want to see everything kind of work out in that aspect. But I mean, like, and what we will say though, as you mentioned, like Jon Cooper is one of those coaches that will essentially get snatched out of the open market within a split second, right? There are coaches out there in the world who you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot rod, and there are coaches out there who you will snatch up in a millisecond, in a heartbeat. And Jon Cooper is on the latter side, and definitely not on the former side.
I think that, again, if he's out there and he says he's out there, you have to jump. That's many teams would, right?
But
many teams would clear house to get him.
And as you said, there is a nice little link, as you mentioned, with Ryan Smith and Cooper being golf buddies, but that doesn't, that's not going to go ahead and automatically say, hey, he's going to come here just because they're golfing buddies. Because you had to think about that as like, there has to be an offer in the place, and there has to be, I'm assuming because they're buddies, it's at least going to be, a preferable deal, but it still has to be put out there and it has to be done fast.
Yes, and I don't see, I don't know. I just don't see Tampa Bay wanting to give up on Jon Cooper right now because Cooper has done such a great job with Tampa Bay. And, I was talking with some people about this earlier today, Robyn, some other hockey folks, and one of them said, Jon Cooper's not the reason Tampa Bay is losing in the playoffs. Right. So,
I mean, they're going up against much better teams. I mean, like,
Tampa Bay is not what they once were, but they did win 2 Stanley Cups. But they're still, I mean, if anything, they're probably being coached up pretty well right now. They still have some talent on that team, but they're not what they were. And they're certainly not as young as they were.
Absolutely. And yeah, you made a really good point about that, saying that that he's not the reason. But I think there is still that level of pressure in a couple different aspects, a couple different ways you can look at it. One is, as I mentioned, three straight first round exits does put a question mark for some fans. But again, the fans aren't going to fire a coach. It's the the owners, the organization that ends up doing that. And again, there wouldn't be a fire. Just be like, again, wait till next season. Like, we're just not going to give you a new contract. That's one, but also I think it's also worth mentioning that Jon Cooper right now is the longest tenured, one of the longest tenured at the very least, NHL coaches out there, because what we see these days is even with good coaches, there still is a recycling of coaches in the coaching carousel. You see things kind of move around. Very rarely do we see, a coach that's going to stand around and stick around for 15, 20, 25 years anymore. Like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And you never know. I mean, I think he is the longest tenured at 12 years right now. So which is kind of wild to think about. But he's got a lot of experience, a lot of championship experience. He's won a Calder Cup. He's won a couple of Stanley Cups. This guy could change the fate of your organization and could really elevate you quickly. Here's one more thing, Robin, I want to throw into this mix as well.
Okay.
Jon Cooper's from Prince George, Alberta. He's a Western Canadian kid. He grew up in the mountains. He's used to the Rockies. He knows what's up. He skis. He's hockey. He's winter sports. He's all those things. I know Tampa's nice. I understand that's really, really, really nice. But, he's no stranger to that. And I think that is another thing that, hey, sometimes it's kind of nice as you get up there a little bit to return to a bit of what you knew. And maybe Utah represents a slice of that for him.
Yeah, there's that. And I think there is also an enticing factor if there's an offer out there, if Utah just jump on it right away, and I kind of already mentioned it, but I think kind of reiterate it and kind of give it in a different perspective here, is there's definitely on Jon Cooper's side, an incentive to take up a offer to be the coach of Utah because of the direction that they're going in. They're moving up every single year, right? I mentioned it. Their talent is getting better, and they're on the verge of playoff berths in the next couple of seasons. So Cooper's probably could think in his head once that time comes and be like, this could be a unique opportunity for me to bring this team into the next phase.
And of course, that could all get shot in the foot if Andre Tourigny takes Utah Hockey Club to a Stanley Cup next year.
If Andre Tourigny takes Utah to the Stanley Cup next year, all bets are off. We're like, all right, you know what? Screw it. We don't need this.
Yeah. No, we're good. We're good. Thank you. Appreciate it. So you never know. But I think I don't think the seat's hot for Andre Tourigny.
No, it's not.
I thought it should have been this year, at least a little warm, but I think it's warm next year. It is warm. It's not hot.
There will be an elevated level of pressure next year. There will be an elevated level of pressure next year because of how much the improvement jumped from 2023-24 to 24-25. They're going to expect a closer level of improvement and a playoff berth next year almost. At least very, very, very close. We're talking a point out and going down to the final game.
Robin, let me say this right now. It's playoffs or bust next year.
Okay.
It's playoffs or bust. That's where the bar is. You're in or you're out. They better.
Again, 89 points this year. So if they're in the mid 90s, that gets them into the, at least into a wild card spot. So,
yep. It this year, yes, it would. Who knows what it's going to be like next year? But yeah, playoffs or bust for me. So, all right, we're going to talk about Barrett Hayton heading over to the Worlds and glance quickly over at what's going on in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. So stay tuned. Robin and I back to wrap things up.
And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting into the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even those must-see matchups. Prices usually drop the closer it gets to the puck drop, and with last minute deals, you can save up to 60%. I always love telling the story. The first time I ever used Game Time was for a Stanley Cup playoff game back in 2016, San Jose Sharks versus St. Louis Blues in the conference finals. I was there for the series clincher, and I got a really, really good deal on it. Yeah, it was all the way back there, but I got a good deal on it. We saw the last minute price for it. We took advantage of it. Their all-in pricing was on there, and I just got to see what the price was after fees, so I didn't all of a sudden get surprised like, oh, I thought it was this amount. No, Game Time already took care of me, and it was a really worthwhile experience. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
One of those terms they don't tell you is you have to deal with the wrath of Robyn if you don't use game time, and you don't want that. Trust me. No one wants that. So I'll tell you what, Robyn, I am impressed with the number of Utah Hockey Club players heading to the Worlds. I really am.
It is
now
amazing.
Barrett Hayton is going.
Barrett Hayton being getting the call from Team Canada, an absolute huge addition. That brings
Group A,
us
represent.
That brings us now to 7 Utah Hockey Club players going to the World Championship.
It's like almost half the roster by this point.
And I feel
that's wild, isn't it? I mean, so many players. If you want to know what kind of talent you have on the Utah Hockey Club, this alone should tell you.
Exactly. I mean, I've been like I said in the previous 2 segments and all this week, this team is getting better. The talent is there. It's got an incredible level of talent on this team. And I feel like people now are just saying that because we're seeing these players get their calls to the World Championship. And yes, as I said previously, and I'll say it again, sure, there are numbers still of the top players in the world still in the Stanley Cup playoffs, because they're only only really wrapping up the first round later this week. But it's incredible.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'm pretty excited to see their production at the Worlds. I'm, Robyn, absolutely 100% looking forward to seeing what all of them can do. But, I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't going to keep an extra special eye on Team USA. 4 of the 7 are on Team USA. And I think I'm expecting awesome things, but this may surprise you, but the player I'm most interested in seeing how he handles the world stage and what he does in this tournament is actually Logan Cooley. I want to see if this is part of him taking the next step as a professional hockey player.
Yeah, and I totally get it. I feel like because, Logan Cooley is in I feel like I want to say pivotal, but part of me feels like it's a little too soon. But for a player of his talent level, I feel like pivotal is the correct term. It's going to decide where is his growth at, and what are some glimpses of maybe the ceiling we can see from him. Like in glimpses, again, we're not going to see him reach his ceiling maybe for another couple of seasons, but even then, he's still playing phenomenal. So how he handles the world stage can really test his poise level to see, can he keep it up?
And I think it's not too much to ask, honestly. I think it's a pretty good indication of players playing against some very good international competition. I don't think Cooley will be in any way outmatched or outclassed. I look to see what kind of impact he's going to have here. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited about everybody going over, obviously, but this one should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean, at least you can make an argument and say that Logan Cooley had a lot of experience in high pressure situations playing for the University of Minnesota, which yes, he did. And I feel like, and again, a Frozen 4 has its own level of intense merit, but you can say the same for anything else. You can talk. You can say really a lot of these players and how they handle the Memorial Cup or really any other situation.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see. All right, well, everybody, shoot your comments down below for us. Number 1, like, follow, and subscribe to the show. If you haven't already and you're still here, you absolutely need to be a subscriber to the show. And we thank all of you who are the long timers and the everydayers, and welcome the newbies as well. Robyn, if they want to comment to us on social media, if they're not watching on YouTube and don't happen to drop it below, where can they find us?
Yeah, they can find us at really anywhere on social media, but primarily you can find us on Twitter at LO_NHL Utah, also on Blue Sky at Locked On Utah Hockey. I'm personally at Robyn_Leaño on Twitter and Robyn Ice Time on Blue Sky.
And I'm at Tom Talks on Blue Sky, which is where I predominantly spend my time, but also at Callahan on Air on Twitter as well. So you can reach out to us. What do you think? Jon Cooper to Utah. Number 1, feasible? Yes, no? Number 2, would you like to see it? So we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on that blue smoke drifting across the Gulf of Mexico. Hopefully it goes right up the mountain range and over the Great Salt Lake. So we shall see.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning us in, everybody. Appreciate you being here. For Robyn, I'm Tom. This has been the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.